There's no way I can trust you with a big deal. Useless people like you shouldn't even show up here." My boss, Director Lisa, leaned back proudly with a full smile on his face. My participation in this negotiation was directly ordered by the bosses. Ignoring that would go against the company's intentions, but it seemed Lisa had no intention of cooperating to make the deal a success. I sighed softly and just replied, "Got it," as I sat down at my desk. Lisa headed to the negotiation in high spirits, but she had no idea she'd soon be trembling and pale with fear. "My name is Mark Stevenson. I'm 42 this year, and I've been with this renowned trading company for 6 months. Our main revenue comes from adversities, and we enthusiastically manufacture and sell electronic devices, along with providing related services. The average age of our employees is relatively young, so being in my 40s and a mid-career hire, I might attract unwanted attention. Moreover, I had requested no overtime as a condition of my employment. Already in a different situation than everyone else, I didn't want to stand out any more than necessary. That's why I decided to downplay my academic background, saying I graduated from a mediocre state college. Mark, haven't you finished the copies yet? We've been waiting forever." "Yes, I'm sorry. I just finished." I turned around in response to the loud voice behind me. Standing there was my boss, Director Lisa Johnson. Lisa graduated from one of the top 5 women's colleges in the country and is now a high-ranking career woman at this company. As capable as she is, she demands her subordinates perform at her level without hesitation. Being slow at work, I've become particularly disliked, often being ordered to do menial tasks like making copies or running errands. I was making copies as Lisa instructed, but her directions were complicated and it took time to organize everything. "What are you dawdling for? These documents are black and white. These are in color. I gave you separate instructions for single-sided and double-sided prints, didn't I?" "Sorry, I had trouble with the settings." Despite carrying an armful of documents, I struggled to finish the remaining copies. Lisa, looking down at me with folded arms, said, "You can't even handle basic tasks, let alone work overtime. What's the point of you working here? The CEO told me to work with you, but I have no intention of babysitting an adult." But the next moment, she frowned in disbelief as she glanced at the printouts. "What were you listening to? I told you to reduce these documents and print them on the same page." Lisa often gave complex instructions all at once, so remembering them was a challenge. When I tried to take notes, she'd mockingly say, "What college did you attend? Does a state college graduate need notes just to make copies?" and take my notes away. Thus, I spent my days running around trying to remember her instructions while doing menial tasks. "Todd could finish these copies in half the time you do. You get the same salary, so show me that level of work." Todd is my colleague, a young guy just in his early 30s, unlike me, a mid-career hire. Unlike me, who's not good with words, Todd is friendly and efficient, so Lisa took a liking to him quickly. After finally finishing the mountain of copies and returning to my desk, Todd approached me as if he'd been waiting. "Lisa was really blowing up again, huh? Mark, you're too serious. We should just split the copying work among everyone." I widened my eyes in surprise at Todd's words. "What? But Lisa told me to do it alone and not to bother the other capable employees. But if you think about the department's overall efficiency, it's definitely better to split the work. Lisa just doesn't want to do the annoying copying herself, so it doesn't matter who does it." Todd's words left me at a loss. I was following Lisa's orders, but Todd suggested finessing things a bit. I thought it best to follow my boss's words, but Todd was giving me advice out of goodwill. As I hesitated to reply, Todd cheerfully put his hand on my shoulder, smiling. "If she gives you more trouble, I'll help you out. We're in the same department after all. Thanks. Just hearing that makes me feel better. If there's anything I can do for you in return, just let me know." Todd probably said that lightly, but after Lisa's harsh treatment, his bright smile felt warm. However, Todd burst into laughter at my words. "What a joke. There's no way I need help from you, Mark." "Maybe not." Todd was well liked by his superiors due to his upbeat attitude and bright smile. However, he often made unnecessary comments to those he deemed below him, making him unpopular among colleagues and subordinates. For me, who was treated as incompetent by Lisa, Todd's willingness to talk to me was a blessing. Despite constantly receiving complaints from Lisa, I continued to work every day, trying not to stand out. But one day, something unexpected happened. As usual, I was running around doing various tasks while receiving numerous nitpicky instructions from Lisa. Suddenly, as she flipped through the documents I submitted, she raised her voice in confusion. "Huh? There's some other document mixed in here. Oh, that." I hurriedly rushed over and retrieved a piece of paper from her. While submitting a declaration form for tax adjustments, my resume from when I joined the company had accidentally gotten mixed in. I quickly retrieved it, but I wondered how much Lisa had seen. When I glanced at her, she was grinning at me in a peculiar way. "Could it be, Mark, that you didn't even graduate from a third-rate college but never attended college in the US at all? Huh?" A cold chill ran down my spine, and I almost clicked my tongue in frustration. Some might think it was an overreaction, but I had been hiding my educational background to peacefully live as a regular employee in this company. And now, of all people, Lisa had discovered my true educational background. "It said you graduated from Mellon University, right?" "Oh well, that's..." It seemed she had seen it after all. Feeling disheartened, I was about to explain the truth when Lisa's next words completely caught me off guard. "Mellon University. Mellon. Maybe there's a Mellon class in kindergarten, but no such university exists." With that, she burst into laughter and started spreading the news about my so-called university to everyone in the office. "Did you all know? Our mid-career hire, Mark, graduated from Mellon University. Maybe he went to Orange High School and Peach Middle School. Then probably Grape Elementary School, and he was born in Apple City, right? But Lisa, that's personal information." Even Todd, who tried to mildly reprimand her, joined in the laughter. The other employees, too, chuckled along with Lisa and Todd's banter. Some looked at me apologetically, but no one stepped in to defend me against Lisa and Todd. Feeling utterly defeated, I continued with my work. After this incident, I became a laughingstock not just to Lisa, but to all my colleagues. Contrary to my desire to live quietly as an unnoticed employee, I had now become infamous as an incompetent worker. I knew this situation was unsustainable, but one day, a huge piece of news arrived at the company. There was a rumor that we might land a deal with the largest manufacturer in the country. Apparently, the CEO's personal connection led to this big opportunity. The atmosphere in the company was tense and expectant, as everyone wondered who would be the lucky employee to handle this big chance. To my surprise, I was the one chosen. As I was still in shock, Lisa came over to my desk, scrutinizing me. Handing me a thick folder, she sneered. "It's ridiculous that an incompetent employee like you is given such an important project. I'll handle it as your superior." "What? Lisa, were you also assigned to this deal?" As I retorted, Lisa gave me a condescending look. "How could someone as brilliant as me not be in charge of such a big project? You low-level employees really can't see the future, can you?" Her blatant words left me speechless. For Lisa, a graduate of a prestigious university, the gap between her and someone like me, whose educational background was questionable, was enormous. For her, it was only natural that someone as capable as herself would handle such a major negotiation. I sighed internally, predicting the tough road ahead. Still, Lisa was my superior, and I couldn't let personal feelings interfere. Reluctantly, I began preparing for the negotiation with Lisa. Unfortunately, my prediction proved accurate. The day before the negotiation, Lisa approached me briskly and said something unbelievable. "Oh, you're still at the office, Mark. Good job. But you won't be needed for tomorrow's business meeting, so just come to work as usual." "What? What do you mean? I was supposed to go to the meeting with you tomorrow." I was completely taken aback by this unexpected news. It was a direct order from the bosses for me to attend this meeting. Ignoring it would go against the company's intentions, So I tried to explain that to Lisa, but she just started tapping her foot impatiently. Do you really think we can send someone with your low educational background as our company representative? Have you checked the background of the person you'll be meeting? They're an elite, just like me, with a top-notch education. Yes, the person we're meeting did graduate from a prestigious university. But how does that justify excluding me from the meeting? I posed this obvious question, but Lisa snatched the documents from my desk and declared sharply, "We can't entrust such a significant deal to someone like you. We don't need incompetence coming along." With a triumphant grin, she held on to the materials I'd worked so hard to prepare. "The company has high expectations of me. By assigning you as the representative, they really want me to assist with the negotiations. That's so selfish." Lisa's mind seemed to be filled only with thoughts that were convenient for her. She had no intention of working together as colleagues to make the deal successful or of helping each other out. This way, the deal was bound to fail. Despite my disappointment, I tried to persuade her. "But we've informed the client that there will be 2 representatives. If you go alone, won't that confuse them?" "Well, you actually managed to think that far, despite your incompetence. But don't worry. I've already planned for that possibility." Lisa spoke smugly with a sly smile. "I'll take Todd instead of you. He's young, and this will be a great experience for him." I could only stare at her in shock. She must have decided to exclude me quite some time ago. Todd was already lined up as my replacement. I joined the company in my 40s, but I had worked hard for it. I thought my dedication would not lose to anyone's, yet this is how I was treated. Turning her back to me, Lisa declared with satisfaction, "Whatever I say as your superior is an order from the company. If this deal succeeds, my promotion will be even closer." Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. In hindsight, I might have needed to reveal everything to Lisa right then. But considering her previous actions, I didn't feel she would believe me. Besides, I had already suffered enough being manipulated by her. With a sigh, I replied, "I understand." Then I sat down at my desk. The next day, I came to work as usual, as instructed. I glanced at the now empty desks of Lisa and Todd before getting to my assigned tasks. If things had gone as planned, I would have been arriving at the client's office by now. Instead, I spent my day performing routine duties without stepping out of the office. I brushed off my disappointment and focused on my work. Ironically, with Lisa not around to interfere, I was more efficient than usual. As I continued working, time flew by. The meeting should be starting around now. Checking the time on my phone, I muttered to myself, "If the deal goes through smoothly without me, that's fine too," I thought. Just then, I heard hurried footsteps, and the president rushed into the office. "Hey, is Mark still here?" "Mr. Watson, what's the matter? Why are you in such a hurry?" As I stood up, the president, Mr. Watson, stared at me, wide-eyed as if he'd seen a ghost. Then, stumbling over himself, he rushed towards me and began shaking my shoulders frantically. "You were supposed to have a business meeting today, right? Why are you still at the office?" "Lisa told me to stay in the office instead of going to the meeting. She said it was an order from the company." When I repeated exactly what I had heard yesterday, his face turned bright red. "There's no way I would order you to stay in the office. Even now, please head to the client immediately. It's urgent." "But even if you say that," I tried to refuse, but Mr. Watson was persistent. "It seems the client's CEO said, I was expecting to meet Mark today, but if he's not here, the deal is off. Haven't you received any messages from Lisa on your phone? Anyway, please go to the client as soon as possible." I checked my phone, but there were no messages from Lisa. I felt a bit moved by Mr. Watson, who was pleading with me, but I had my own commitments. I looked at the work I had on hand. None of it was urgent, but they were important tasks entrusted to me by Lisa. "I want to go, but I have work assigned by Lisa." "What kind of work?" Mr. Watson asked, his voice trembling as if he was about to cry, but when he heard my answer, his jaw dropped. "I'm supposed to cut up the scrap paper from failed copies and make notepads. That's not the kind of work you should be doing." Has Lisa been giving you such menial tasks all this time? With a voice breaking with anger, Mr. Watson snatched the stack of paper from me, pushed me out the door, and shoved me into a taxi. Hurrying to the client, I started the meeting a few hours late. The client's CEO, who had a stern look when I arrived, relaxed and broke into a smile as soon as he saw me. "Mark, long time no see. Glad to see you're doing well too. Now, about the deal." Lisa and Todd, who had arrived earlier, were surprised by my straightforward approach. I wonder how much they were scolded. The two of them, who were shrinking with embarrassment in front of the client's CEO, turned pale as they saw me starting the negotiation without any pleasantries. They probably thought my blunt manner would upset the client, but there was no need to worry. "You're still as efficient and straightforward as ever." "Great, let's start the negotiation." The client's CEO laughed heartily. In the end, the meeting was successfully concluded within a few hours. On our way back to the company, Lisa and Todd were silent. Todd seemed like he wanted to ask something, occasionally glancing at me, but he didn't say a word until we reached the office. He probably refrained because Lisa, looking very displeased, remained silent the whole time. As soon as we got back to the office, I was called in by Lisa. "What the hell is going on? Why did the client say they couldn't have the meeting without an incompetent employee like you? And how could you be so familiar with the client's CEO? Didn't you think that was rude?" "Well, that's because..." I was about to explain when a thunderous voice echoed from the hallway, scolding Lisa. "Lisa, why on earth were you having Mark do menial tasks?" "Mr. Watson?" Lisa was momentarily startled by the sudden appearance of the CEO, but she quickly composed herself and confidently responded, "I was just giving Mark appropriate work." With his educational background, finding suitable tasks within the company was difficult. "Oh, I see. It's clear that you don't know much about your subordinates, Lisa." But Mr. Watson began calmly explaining to Lisa in a firm voice. "Mark is a genius who graduated from one of the most prestigious universities in the world. He was familiar with the client's CEO from his time overseas, which is why I entrusted this deal to him." "What? How?" Lisa turned pale, looking back and forth between me and Mr. Watson. "It seems we can't keep it hidden anymore." I decided to explain why I was working at this company. My parents worked for a top trading company, and I spent most of my childhood alone at home. I barely remember talking to my parents, who were always busy traveling around the country, and the only time they were truly happy was when I got perfect scores on tests. As a child, I thought that getting good grades would make my parents happy, so I studied diligently. Though initially, my motivation was to gain praise from my parents, I gradually awakened to the inherent enjoyment of learning itself. By the time I reached high school, the childish desire for my parents' attention had faded away. Instead, what grew within me was a pure thirst for knowledge. After progressing to a national university's graduate school, I once joined a major electronics manufacturer as a developer. However, as I immersed myself in the actual development field, my desire to delve deeper into research grew stronger. The university that piqued my interest was located in Pittsburgh, USA. The students there were ambitious, not only engaging in research, but also starting businesses while still in school. Most importantly, going there meant being in an environment where the world's elites gathered. I wanted to see how my skills measured up on the global stage. Once I started attending that university, my days were filled with stimulating and enjoyable research discussions with researchers from various backgrounds, leading to a fulfilling student life. During this time, just as I was about to graduate, I received a message from back home. My mother had fallen ill and needed someone to care for her at home. My father, being busy with work and traveling across the country, couldn't take care of her. I had already decided to stay at the university for joint development with a company, but I decided to decline and return home. Since then, I've been working while taking care of my mother. With such a lifestyle, I couldn't focus on work, so I intended to dedicate myself to my mother's care without working. I couldn't leave my mother alone at home for long periods, so overtime was out of the question. There weren't many companies that would allow such working conditions. However, The CEO of the company I had met during my university years reached out to a contact and introduced me to the company I'm currently working at. After explaining all this, Lisa, who had been listening intently, raised her voice in disbelief. "I can't believe it. Your resume says you graduated from Mellon University. There's no way such a silly named university exists. It's not Mellon University, it's Carnegie Mellon University." At my correction, Lisa was left gaping, while Todd, who had been listening beside her, quickly looked it up on his phone and showed the search results to Lisa. Realizing that Carnegie Mellon University actually existed and was one of the world's top universities, Lisa collapsed to the floor. "No way. Carnegie Mellon University? I thought I had informed you from the beginning, Lisa." Ignoring instructions and arbitrarily excluding someone from a business deal is outrageous. With a cold stare from Mr. Watson, Lisa became highly agitated and started yelling hysterically. For someone who valued academic background above all, the shock that I had a far superior academic background must have been immense. Staggering, she approached Mr. Watson, forcing a smile and trying to flatter him. "No, it's a misunderstanding, Mr. Watson. About this deal, Mark asked me to take charge instead." Lisa started speaking frantically, moving her hands incessantly in an attempt to cover up. Mr. Watson's frown deepened further. "Mark said he was anxious about handling such a big deal and asked if I could take over as a supervisor. Is that true, Mark?" When Mr. Watson asked calmly, I shook my head quietly. Lisa shot a fiery glare at me, but the truth couldn't be changed. "That's what he said. Stop making transparent excuses. Besides, even if Mark had wanted to step down from this deal, the nature of the tasks you've been assigning him is fundamentally wrong." Mr. Watson's sharp remark made Lisa tremble. Usually calm and composed, Mr. Watson now spoke harshly, criticizing Lisa. After sending me out to the business deal, Mr. Watson apparently started his own investigation. From speaking to my colleagues, he discovered that Lisa had been delegating nothing but menial tasks to me. Upon learning this, Mr. Watson became furious. Directing his still burning anger at Lisa, Mr. Watson continued in a stern tone. "Mark is exceptionally talented, and I told you to work closely with him. I thought it was to support him because he was incompetent." Lisa, her face growing pale, clung to Mr. Watson. Her behavior was pathetic and ugly. Unable to watch her stubborn refusal to admit her fault any longer, I finally spoke up. "Lisa, please, that's enough. Shut up. It's your fault I'm in this mess." Lisa brushed off my outstretched hand, her anger clear. Her eyes were red with rage and tears she was trying to hold back, causing her to sniff loudly from time to time. In such a state, she appeared pitiful, far removed from her high-educated and managerial stature. She looked miserable compared to the confident figure who had left for the business meeting earlier. Mr. Watson didn't hesitate to deliver her punishment. "For violating my orders, you're suspended for a while. Cool your head at home." "What? Are you planning to fire me? I've contributed so much to this company," Lisa cried out, but Mr. Watson's decision remained unchanged. "Leave. I don't want to see your face for a while." Upon hearing that, Lisa suddenly stood up, her eyes wandering around the room as if searching for allies. But when she noticed that even Todd, who she had favored so much, was staring at her silently along with the rest of us, her expression froze. Then, she let out an incoherent scream and ran out of the office. After that, Lisa never returned to the office and left the company by resigning voluntarily. But my incident was just the trigger. The real reason for her punishment was embezzlement. She had repeatedly taken credit for her subordinates' work. Lisa used to say, "Given my special contributions, I deserve special treatment," and she charged lavish hotels and personal souvenirs during business trips to the company's expenses. Additionally, she padded expense claims and pocketed the extra money. The person who had collected all the evidence of her wrongdoing was Todd. He had ingratiated himself with Lisa to uncover the extent of her fraud. Without Todd's efforts, Lisa would have likely evaded the accusations and destroyed the evidence. I had no idea. It's thanks to you that we learned the truth. Once you joined, Lisa got sloppy and committed fraud left and right. making it easy to gather evidence," Todd said, laughing loudly. "I said I might help Mark, but never thought I'd need his help." "That's surprising." "Yeah, maybe." Despite Todd's annoying tendency to say unnecessary things, I was grateful to him for revealing the truth about Lisa, who had dismissed me as incompetent. Afterward, my mother's condition gradually stabilized. My father finally took a break from work and returned home, allowing me to swap with him in caring for her. I quit my job and returned to my former university to continue collaborative research with companies. I still occasionally exchange messages with my former colleagues. From what I hear, Todd has been promoted steadily and is now a manager, aiming to become the youngest department head next. Though it was less than 6 months for me, looking back, I enjoyed my relaxed life as an office worker. With those memories in mind, I'm determined to continue excelling in my research.